Welcome, everyone. It's noon. We're going to get started. We have a lot of material to cover. My name is Mark Hiraiti. I'm on the executive committee of the business law section of the Los Angeles County Bar Association. And I want to welcome my colleagues and the other lawyers who are on the call, who are here to render assistance to the victims of the Eaton and Palisades wildfires. The response from the bar has been overwhelming, and I have to say I'm very proud of my colleagues and other lawyers from not only Los Angeles, but throughout the state, and even lawyers from throughout the country offering to assist those victims. And to those of you who were victims listening on this call, all I can say is we give you our heartfelt support and hope that we can offer some assistance to you in this long journey back. First of all, before I begin, I want to let you know about a resource page on the LA County Bar website. If you Google LACBA, LACBA, or LA County Bar, Library of Legal Resources and Emergency Services related to the fires, you will find a page with links to a number of the organizations and resources relating to the fire that should be very helpful, not only to lawyers offering pro bono services, but to the actual victims. There's a centralized listing of resources there, links to other materials from other bar associations, including the California State Bar, the California Lawyers Association, Beverly Hills Bar, and numerous local bar associations who have really stepped up and mobilized their members to offer services and resources to our fire victims. The library has important legal information on landlord-tenant issues, employment, environmental, insurance, tax, and bankruptcy. The focus, of course, is on legal issues, but the information is helpful to anyone, lawyer or not, including how to go about retrieving and getting copies of destroyed documents, for example. There are information about training and volunteer opportunities for those lawyers and law students who are interested in offering their services pro bono. The State Bar has a page on its website about pro bono opportunities. All right, let's get on without further ado. Let me introduce our speakers today. From FEMA, let me introduce you to Brandy Richard Thompson. Brandy is the Public Affairs Officer in Region 9. Brandy, thank you so much for agreeing to appear today. And we also have from the SBA, Corey Williams. Corey is the Public Information Officer from the SBA's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. Corey, thank you very much for helping organize this program and for appearing today. So we want to try to answer as many questions as we can. We're going to try to actually answer all the questions. We have over 100 registrants. I don't know that we'll be able to get to them all, but we're going to do our best to answer all of your questions. And we're actually going to have another session 2 weeks from today, same time, same place, on the 21st. And it'll be partly a review of today's materials, but also another opportunity. If after today you think of additional questions, or in the meantime, receive information from FEMA or the SBA, which you'd like to ask our representatives about, you'll have an opportunity to do that at that February 21st, Friday, noon to 1:30 session, Zoom session. All right, with that, Brandy, welcome again, and please tell us about relief available at FEMA.
Thank you so much, Mark, and good morning, everyone. I want to express our deepest gratitude for allowing us to be here today The recent wildfires have had a profound impact on us at FEMA. Some of us live and work in the communities that you do as well, and on all of you. And so we're here today to let you know that we're here for you every step of the way, and also let you know what assistance is available to you from FEMA. We know that many in your community have been affected by these devastating wildfires. Recovery is a long and challenging process. Sometimes it takes 3 to 5 years, but FEMA is committed to standing with you. To date, FEMA has distributed over $60 million in aid to wildfire survivors, helping those with home repairs, personal property losses, medical expenses, and other urgent needs. If you haven't applied yet, you can do so by calling 1-800-621-3362, or you can visit disasterassistance.gov or download the FEMA app. For those who have been displaced, we offer transitional sheltering assistance, covering hotel stays, along with rental assistance and lodging expense reimbursement for those whose homes are uninhabitable. FEMA disaster recovery centers are available in Los Angeles County, including one in Altadena and one at the UCLA Research Park West. You can find those locations by going to the website fema.gov/DRC. These centers provide in-person support for survivors, including assistance with applications and replacing vital records. The cleanup process is essential for rebuilding, and the Environmental Protection Agency is managing hazardous household waste removal, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is leading debris removal efforts with about $3 billion allocated for this initiative. Unfortunately, disasters often attract scammers. Please remember that FEMA never charges for applications or inspections, and always verify the identification of anyone claiming to represent FEMA. If you suspect fraud or identity theft to disaster aid, report it immediately at our 1-800 number, 800-621-3362. We also understand that the stress of recovery extends beyond the financial loss. We know you thrive on resilience, but no one should navigate this alone. So free, confidential mental health resources are available. You can call the 988 Crisis Lifeline or the Disaster Distress Helpline at 1-800-985-5990 for support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Finally, our deadline for FEMA and SBA assistance is March 10th, 2025. We encourage you to apply as soon as possible to recover and receive the help that you need. With that, I will open it up for any questions that you might have about your specific challenges.
I'll go ahead and kick it off, Brandy. So I understand that FEMA relief is not insurance, so it's not intended to cover what insurance covers. But I wonder if you could tell us the maximum amount of relief available and for what category. I think you mentioned the categories, but if you don't mind mentioning those categories again, please.
Absolutely. So we have 2 large buckets of assistance. One grant is for home repair, rental assistance, home replacement. And then another grant is for personal property, vehicle loss, any funeral expenses that you have, medical expenses, storage expenses. And each bucket is, the maximum grant for each is $43,600. And so those are the 2 large categories of assistance that you could receive assistance for, but that doesn't obligate the federal government to provide you with the maximum amount of assistance. It's based on what your damages actually were, and the amount of assistance that we can provide. So we really encourage individuals to submit to their insurance company to determine what assistance they're going to receive from their insurance company, so that we can determine what we can help them with from those grant programs that are available. Now, one of our buckets of assistance for home repair, replacement, lodging expense reimbursement, that side of the house, also includes rental assistance, but the rental assistance doesn't impact that maximum grant amount of $43,600. And so if individuals need that rental assistance for up to 18 months, it's a great way to be able to have assistance to have a place to live if your insurance company doesn't provide that assistance to you.
Okay, I want to encourage everybody to submit questions. The easiest way for us is if you submit them on the Q&A function of Zoom. A couple of people have submitted them on chat. One of the questions is, if insurance covers displacement but is not sufficient, will FEMA cover hotel stay?
FEMA may be able to cover your hotel stay that you have paid out of pocket through what's called lodging expense reimbursement. And so, one, we would need to know what your insurance coverage will cover. So that means you providing us with the declaration page from your insurance coverage and the document that your insurance company sends you once the disaster has happened and you've reached out to them, that lets you know what they're actually going to cover for this disaster. And also, we will need the receipts from your hotel stay. And that will help us to determine what you're eligible for lodging expense reimbursement. And that is if, in fact, you can't get back into your home and you're displaced.
Right. Okay, so this question goes to the application process. You mentioned the deadline is March 10th. Of course, people will not have all their receipts for lodging and for home repair. What do they apply before the March 10th deadline and then supplement their applications? How does that process work?
Yes, that's a great question. So you apply once for FEMA assistance, and then you continue to send us information for that same registration or application that you've submitted. So individuals would submit the receipts that they currently have. And then as they gather additional receipts for lodging expenses, they could share those as well. But the assistance that they'll receive from FEMA is predicated on the fact that they are actually displaced from their home. So before we would be able to provide assistance for lodging expense reimbursement, we would either have to have that verified by our inspector or you sharing some information with us that verifies that you are in fact displaced from your home.
Okay. On that issue, I assume that there are certain addresses that are within the burn zone that people would, assuming that the applicant could verify that that was their residence, their address should be sufficient. Is that correct? Or do you still have to send somebody out?
It just depends. So we have a variety of folks who are supporting the inspection effort, and they're going to be reaching out to you to let you know either we were able to determine that your home was destroyed through a geospatial inspection, like we use a satellite to make that determination, or that we would actually have to come out and look at your property. Sometimes they can also just verify your identity and information by phone. And so those are some of the ways that they can determine that your home was destroyed, and then move forward with providing us the information at our call center and our casework department to be able to process your registration for lodging expense reimbursement, rental assistance, and other forms of displacement assistance.
Okay, I've heard that one of the reasons that the application may be rejected, and in a minute I'll ask you in what format the application takes, but I've heard that one of the reasons that it gets rejected is that the ID is not sufficient. Can you comment on that, and then also address the issue where my understanding is that if you're a member of a household and the head of the household can apply on behalf of members of his or her household, is that correct?
So there are a few reasons why. I believe this kind of coincides with one of the questions in the chat about fraud. There are a few reasons why fraud could be perceived. So let's start with the identity conversation that you asked about. If you apply for assistance from us, we may need to verify your identity. That could be for a number of reasons. Maybe the systems that we're utilizing um, don't have you at that address or don't have that information for you in our system. And so before we can provide you any assistance, we need to verify your identification. And the inspector can do that when they come to visit you, or they can do it over the phone, or they can do it via like a FaceTime call or at a neutral location or what have you. So that's one. If for some reason someone tries to apply for you and doesn't have the appropriate identification, that's going to cause them a challenge as well. And so I think there was a question in the chat about fraud where somebody registered on behalf of another person, impersonating another person, and therefore their registration was kind of caught up. What we would call it in our office is that it's duplicated with another registration, and we have to work that out before we can provide assistance. And so if that has happened to you and you are in this area and you have access to a disaster recovery center, I would go into the disaster recovery center and ask to speak with someone from individual assistance so that you can provide them with the verification information that you have to be able to work through that challenge. You can also give us a call at our 1-800 number to help to work through that challenge. Now, when you talk about heads of household, our expectation is that a household that was impacted by the fire would receive assistance as a household, unless some things are true. Like you had people living in the home prior to the disaster who were in a rental agreement with the owners, and were paying rent to the owners or the household landlord. And if that's the case, then both could be able to apply for assistance. So let's say you had an older adult child living there who was renting from the parents, or an adult who was renting from their grandparents, or any of those scenarios. What we would need is a document showing that that person was leasing, and then the renter would be eligible for their personal property, their contents, the things in the house that belong to them. They would not be eligible for home repair, home replacement, because the home didn't in fact belong to them. And so sometimes there's a duplication because the main person who owns the home, lived in the home, has applied, and someone who is renting a room out has also applied, and we have to deconflict who is the actual homeowner, who was the renter, and sort out the lease agreements that are associated with that. And then there are other times when, people may apply on behalf of someone and it's just an accident that they both applied. Spouses can apply, and those kinds of things that also would have to be worked out in order to clear up those registrations so assistance can be provided to all of the people who are eligible for it. But typically we are looking at assistance as a household unit and then providing assistance based off of that.
Okay, well, this leads me to my next question about the application process. How do you go about doing it? And then this question specifically, I understand you can apply online or through one of the centers, but if you apply online and you get an error message because of the identity conflict, then do you recommend taking that application walking that application into the center? And do you have to do that before the March 10th deadline?
Correct. And we are out here most probably until at least the end of February, maybe until the application deadline, to be able to provide you with that in-person support. And then as our disaster recovery centers start to close, then your option will be to call our 1-800 number. So I would really just take advantage of the opportunity to see people in person and let them help you with your registration.
Okay, and so then can people just walk in with no documentation and have the person there assist them in completing the application, or do they have to come in with a completed application?
They don't have to come in with the completed application, but there are some documents, and I will drop that information into the chat that they should bring with them.
Okay.
And then we'll assist them the rest of the way.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brandy. Let's take a look at the question Q&A.
Let's see what we've got. I hope I answered the question about from earlier. If insurance covers displacement, but it is not sufficient, will FEMA cover a hotel stay? Yes, that is possible. And that's why we need to see what your insurance covers to determine what you are eligible for. One of the types of assistance that we provide, rental assistance and lodging expense reimbursement, can really be helpful for individuals who are insured, because at some point that assistance that they receive from their insurance company could run out, and we provide 18 months of rental assistance for FEMA. So depending on how you want to utilize the assistance that you receive from FEMA and the assistance you get from your insurance company, that could really help you to make some strategic decisions about your recovery. What process does FEMA have for recouping money where individuals had insurance but also had hotel bills presumably paid? Um, you know, we typically are looking at recouping or taking money back at the end of the life cycle of the disaster, or closer to that time. And it typically happens based on people saying, well, I had this assistance, or their insurance documentation that they submit to us says that they had rental assistance or something along those lines that they didn't let us know about. And so we do not want to be in the position of asking for money back from people. So we try to explain to them that if they share their information with us up front, then we can help them to make decisions about what assistance they're eligible for from FEMA, and also only give them the assistance that they are in fact eligible for from FEMA. So the best way to avoid that is to submit your declaration page if that's all that you have. I've had a few people ask us about like the California Fund Plan and different types of insurance assistance. Like, send us what you have so that we can determine what you're eligible for now, and provide that assistance to you. Because we understand this process is confusing and challenging when you're dealing with the disaster itself.
I'm going to
You were
read you a couple questions from the Q&A.
Okay.
Brandy. Okay, so one is relief available for private clubs? The Altadena Town and Country Club was destroyed.
So we have public assistance that is available for certain nonprofits, not-for-profits. And so it is possible that you could receive assistance from that. I'll let Corey talk about what SBA loan assistance could be available as well. But the application process for private nonprofits is happening now, and the state is putting together application briefings for those organizations that could apply. They have a sense of who can apply and can help you with that. So I'll make sure and add that information into the chat as well, so that you can determine whether or not you're eligible for FEMA public assistance. That's the program for those damages.
Okay, I think you addressed this partially. Is assistance based on financial need?
Our assistance is given across the board for everyone. However, if you are insured, we can't duplicate assistance that you've received. So when you talk about financial need, some people may be insured for certain things and other people may not. And so as a result, the people who are not insured may receive more grant assistance than others. But it's not because of need, it's because of how much they receive from their insurance company and what amount they still needed to complete their recovery. And so our caseworkers are expert at that, and we'll make sure that we're providing the assistance that each person that comes into our system actually needs.
Okay. This family was living in their house from December 2020 until August 2024. So it sounds like they got their stuff out just a few months before, because they rented out their house after that. What does that mean for FEMA assistance for us? We lived in our house for more than 50% of the year. This also might, and also if you could address, Brandy, rental properties.
That's a great question too. You have to live in your house more than 6 months out of the year in order to be eligible for FEMA assistance, full stop. And so we only assist with primary residences. The SBA may have assistance to help you with a secondary residence, and this is also sometimes a reason why there are duplications with applications, because the homeowner may apply for FEMA assistance even though they're not living there at the time, and the renter is also applying for FEMA assistance, and so we have to deconflict those registrations as well. But what's important to know is that we can help you with your primary residence. We can't help you with your secondary residence at FEMA with a grant. If you had contents in the home, let's say you were leasing it to someone else, but you still had contents there or something along those lines, that were uninsured or underinsured, we may be able to assist with that. But we would take that on a case-by-case basis because we can't assist with secondary homes.
Okay. This person has heard that, I've heard this too, you get a quote pro forma denial letter until you give FEMA your declarations page and insurance denial coverage letter. Is that true?
Yes. The term pro forma denial letter I have not heard before, but I am on the call with law people. So basically the letter that you receive, we have now updated so that it should not just flatly say that you are denied. However, those letters have gone out to people that basically start the conversation about FEMA assistance. What the letter really means is that we need more information from you. And so there are in the app very specific lines in the app that will show you what additional information we may need. Some people get thrown off by what's in the app because they look at it and they're like, well, I don't need moving and storage expense. Like, I don't have any receipts for moving and storage. I don't have receipts for this item. And then I've shown them, and it also asks you for your insurance coverage. And they're like, oh, that's where it asked me for that. So look at the pro forma letter, read it thoroughly, and get us the information that we need so that we can update your registration and get it to us within 60 days. Because, and I'm sure you all will definitely understand this, when we send a letter to you about your eligibility, you have 60 days to reply to us and what we would call an appeal, which is sending us additional information or telling us why you do, in fact, need this assistance. We need to get that information back in 60 days. Otherwise, you may have a challenge in receiving that assistance.
Okay, so then for those people, are there people who have just based on their initial application received a flat out denial? And I'm wondering if you have any information about the percentage of applicants so far that have received denials. And then what is the appeal process for those people?
So I don't have information on the individuals who've received a denial. I would hazard to say that maybe some of the people who have received a denial are people who evacuated maybe and their home wasn't damaged, or those kinds of things. But if you have questions, reach out to us, call us, go to one of our offices so that we can help you to navigate it. And you still have access to the appeal process of 60 days to submit additional information to us that says, yes, in fact, I did evacuate as a result of the wildfire. And here's why I evacuated, because the firefighter gave me this, the county gave me this, et cetera, et cetera.
So, okay, so just so that I'm clear, so the 60-day period to allow for the submission of additional information, is that effectively the same as appeal? In other words, you don't have to file a formal appeal. You can just simply provide additional information, even if not asked for it?
Correct.
Okay, would you
Correct.
recommend that? Is that the best way to kind of quote appeal a denial, is to provide additional information within 60 days of the denial?
Correct.
Okay.
So for people with insurance, they are providing their insurance documentation. their
Okay.
declaration page and or the document from their insurance company that says, based on your damages, this is what we're going to provide to you.
Okay.
If you don't have insurance, then you're going to provide it. Maybe you, when you were filling out the application, you fat thumbed the registration on your phone and you said you had insurance when you actually don't. Then you would need to let us know that you don't, in fact, have insurance and you have these damages. And here are the receipts from the damages.
Okay. This next one, I'm going to skip questions that seem particular to the, well, no, I'm going to read this one. Can purchases for safety clothing, masks, etc., as well as vacuums and cleanup gear be reimbursed?
We have a $300 amount that is available for what we call clean and sanitize. And so up to that amount, you can receive assistance for some of your cleaning materials and gear. As far as masks and those kinds of things, I'm not sure if those are included. I'll definitely take that question back, but I know that those items are being given away for free at all of the libraries, as well as most of the town hall meetings that we attend. They're giving away those materials, so if people need them, they're available.
Thank you. Where can we go or who can we contact about volunteering? I would first start at the LA County Bar Library resource page that I mentioned. There are links to various organizations that are conducting training to assist volunteer lawyers, assuming you're a lawyer. But the effort has been tremendous and there are lots of opportunities to assist. So thank you for that question. Next one is, if I lived with a person at the same address, should we both complete our own application? We are not partners and did not share accounts. Not sure how to address all my personal belonging or business supplies. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. That is also a situation where when you apply for FEMA assistance, I would make it known that you were like renting with someone, that you were like living separately, but living in the same place. And what the inspector will do when they come out is try to determine like which rooms, which spaces of personal property they can assign to each person who registered for assistance, so they can determine what grant assistance you're eligible for. One of the parts of that question was about like items that you would use to continue to do your work. If you're a photographer and you have a camera, or you're a computer worker and you have a computer, a designer or something like that, those items are eligible for replacement under FEMA personal property assistance and that ONA, other needs assistance bucket of $43,600. So up into a certain amount, you may be eligible to receive some help in recovering and replacing those items that you need to be able to do your work moving forward. And then I'd also suggest that individuals who have been economically impacted would apply for disaster unemployment assistance. That is a program that FEMA pays for, but does not administer. So that assistance is available from the state of California. You would apply just like you would apply for other unemployment assistance, but it's a disaster unemployment assistance opportunity that's available just for now. So I would take advantage of that as well.
Okay, and then just to review, for the person that's living at the same address, unless, as you had mentioned, they have some sort of rental agreement, in order to avoid getting bounced as an error in the ID, it's better to, rather than apply online, to meet that March 10th deadline, to go into the office, correct?
Yes, there are some circumstances. I used to be a caseworker, and sometimes it's just better to chat with someone and have them notate your file about your special circumstance than to do it on your own. The application process isn't difficult, but if you have a special circumstance, I would recommend that you go in and speak to someone and have them to help you.
Okay. If a renter is displaced, can they collect rental assistance?
Yes.
Okay. Our adult
And they could have renters insurance as well. So the same would apply, that they would need to submit the information from their insurance company to let us know what their rental insurance is covering.
Yes, good point. Okay. Our adult child lived with us and paid us monthly rent. Could she individually file for an SBA loan as a displaced renter? We have bank records showing her monthly rent payments, but no written rental agreement.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, another situation where probably helps to have somebody there to explain the situation in the application process.
Yes, and you can, if you don't have a formal lease agreement, you can write a letter that attests to what you are describing with the rental
Right.
relationship, and also share the bank information that shows that payments were being made to back up what you're saying in your letter.
Okay. Does every household member need a FEMA claim number, or can the head of household act on behalf of everyone for FEMA benefits?
The head of household can act on behalf of everyone. And then that registration number would be for everyone in the family. And that registration number is sometimes really important because other forms of assistance, whether it's American Red Cross or other nonprofits, will utilize that registration number in order to provide assistance to you. So that number can be really important, and I would guard that number closely. I wouldn't just share it with anybody.
Okay. Uh, Next question is, what if the expenses are incurred after the deadline on the letter? I assume they're referring to the March 10th deadline?
Well,
Or,
they may be referring to the appeals deadline on from the letter that they receive. So the date, if the letter is dated today, then they have 60 days from then to submit additional information. We recognize that your registration will remain open until you have either exhausted all of the funds that are available to you from FEMA or have completed the recovery process. We anticipate that that will be at least 18 months from now, or about 18 months from now, but it could be longer than that. Our assistance for rental assistance and some of those things may end at the 18-month mark. So my suggestion would be that you pay close attention to the 60-day date that you need to submit any additional documentation, and do your best to do so. If for some reason you don't have something, which is typically the case with insurance documentation, I would declaration page and insert a letter or let them know, this is what I have. The insurance company has not yet settled with us. We don't know what additional assistance we're going to receive from the insurance company. So this is what we have to provide. If you're continuing to have receipts for rental assistance, there is a form that will have you to continue to fill out for that, which is almost like an additional application, but it's not. So for those kinds of things, you wouldn't have to worry about that 60-day letter time frame. And I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I will clarify it in the chat.
okay. Does FEMA consider the replacement cost of lost personal property, including for highly expensive items?
They do, but FEMA is not able through our grant program to replace what you had. So, when you're talking about insurance coverage, you say, well, is this replacement coverage or not? FEMA assistance definitely is not replacement coverage. So I've had people ask me in the past, I've got my Mac computer and it costs $4,000. Is FEMA going to give me the $4,000 for the computer? Most probably not, but they will give you assistance to help you to recover from the fact that your computer was lost. And it's most probably going to be way less than the $4,000 that your computer cost. So this is just a portion of assistance, along with SBA, along with your insurance company, along with nonprofit organizations that will help you to get back on your feet. And we want you to understand it and know about it so that you can maximize the use of the grants, but they're not going to be the whole piece of getting you back to where you need to be, unfortunately.
So let me ask you, we can take that as an example. Let's say, do the FEMA employees act kind of like insurance adjusters, and will they get on the phone with the applicant and discuss the applicant's use of the computer and the value that, how does that process work?
No, there are already set amounts for each kind of assistance that we can provide. So assistance for a refrigerator. I'm just going to come up with some things, or assistance for a desk, or assistance for a sofa. There's an actual set amount that the FEMA employee can assign based on that item in this area. And the FEMA employee cannot assign more just because that item costs more than a typical item in that category, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So,
Is there any discretion, or is there much discretion on the part of the FEMA reviewer about valuation or eligibility for grants?
no, and this isn't, in fact, a grant program, and it's the same amount of assistance for anyone who is impacted. And so that's why when a disaster happens, we really encourage people to reach out to their insurance first, determine what they may be eligible for insurance, because FEMA is not going to be the agency that's able to make you whole.
Okay, this question is somewhat related. Does FEMA reimburse the cost of purchasing an air purifier? And I'm thinking, what if the person lives outside the burn zone?
Mhm.
You know, their home is fine, but they're encountering a lot of debris and smoke and ashes.
FEMA can provide assistance with that. And I will take this opportunity to also say that if you were impacted health-wise as a result of the disaster, you can apply for assistance from FEMA for that. So let's say you had a huge asthma flare-up, you had to go to the emergency room, get additional medication, et cetera. You could submit those receipts to FEMA for assistance because it happened as a result of the smoke inhalation from the disaster. So those things are eligible as well. But I'd also like to take this opportunity to just encourage people to take advantage of all of the assistance that's available to them at this point. Typically early in a disaster cycle, like we are now within this first 30 days, we just hit the 30-day mark, to about a month and a half, 2 months. Everyone is here. All of the nonprofit organizations, there's a lot of focus, there's a lot of assistance available. So I've been to a lot of events where they were like handing out air purifiers and handing out certain types of things that may cost people a lot to replace. And when you talk about a finite amount of grant assistance that's available to you from FEMA, would you prefer to take the air purifier that's being handed out, or would you prefer to get reimbursed for the air purifier that you want when the cap is still $43,600 on the grant assistance that you might be eligible for? So the strategy around this disaster may not be something that people are paying close attention to because they're justifiably having a hard time just dealing with everything that's going on. But you want to just make use of the resources that are available to you in the best way possible to maximize your grant amount from FEMA, maximize what you're getting from your insurance company, from your employer, from other organizations that are willing to help at this pivotal time now that may not be available in the future.
Okay. If we still don't have a settlement with our insurance company, what information should we provide FEMA about the pendency of the process?
I would provide them with the declaration page. So declaration page from your auto, your home, anything that you have insurance for. You may also need to provide basic information about medical insurance if you're going to claim assistance for any health challenges that you've had. like whether or not you had health insurance to be able to cover some of those impacts as well.
Okay. If my insurance covers loss of use for 3 years, but I am displaced for 4, will FEMA help cover that 4th year of housing? Will I be able to claim that grant money 4 years down the road?
That is I would talk to a caseworker about that. I would either call us by phone or go to one of our disaster recovery centers, because I'm still trying to piece together what that looks like, because our assistance is for this 18-month period. And so it may be better to front end the assistance from FEMA and then utilize the insurance coverage on the back end. And I'm not sure how the caseworkers work that out, but if I were you, I would definitely ask.
Okay, but again, they need to, in order to be eligible for that assistance 4 years down the road, if it's available, they need to apply by March 10th.
They need to apply by March 10th, but they may not be eligible 4 years down the road.
Right, right.
Right. Because we're offering rental assistance for 18 months from the date of the disaster. So that's a conversation that I would have with the caseworker about what that additional assistance from FEMA would actually be for you in your specific situation, knowing that you have 3 years available, but you would prefer to use them later so that you could access the FEMA assistance right now.
Okay. All right. And then I think let's see, we're coming down to the last few questions and we're about halfway through the program, and I want to give Corey his fair share. He's been very patient. Thanks, Corey. How does GoFundMe funds impact FEMA assistance?
We can't duplicate assistance with other providers. That has been in our rules since our inception. So whether it's insurance or GoFundMe, we can't give you assistance for something that you're receiving assistance for from someplace else. So if you are creating a GoFundMe page, be clear about what you're asking for. You may be asking for any assistance beyond what you're receiving from FEMA. You may be asking for assistance to replace all of your music equipment because you aren't receiving any assistance from FEMA to replace the value of your music equipment that you had and lost. So just be careful in the description, but the rule is just that we can't duplicate or provide you assistance for the same thing that you've gotten from another source.
Okay. And this March 10th deadline, it's so short. What do you know why is it that it's so soon, the deadline?
That is a standard deadline. Sometimes those deadlines are extended, but I am not wanting to, tease someone with the amount with the thought that it might extend. I just want people to go ahead and register for assistance ahead of the deadline so that they're in the queue.
And is there any relief if you miss that deadline?
There are very few reasons why you can miss that deadline and still receive assistance.
Okay. Okay.
So I encourage people to go ahead and register. I think it's in your best interest to register now. And as I mentioned earlier, there's so many other opportunities to get support and help right now that this is the time.
Okay. And if you have questions, I'm going to give you the last question on FEMA. But for the audience members, if you have additional questions on FEMA, please go ahead and submit them. But can you address what is available for Palisades residents who did not lose their home but cannot live in their home due to the area being closed indefinitely?
Yes, so you may be eligible to receive displacement assistance. So what we would need is information on the fact that you cannot access your home. That could be screenshots from the county page that shows that you're still in an evacuation zone, information from the water company that says your water is not working yet or electricity is not turned on. There are very specific habitability requirements for a home that FEMA has. And so you may be eligible for either transitional sheltering assistance where we pay for the hotel directly for you on your behalf, or you may be eligible for lodging expense reimbursement and or rental assistance. So I will also drop that information into the chat as I'm answering other questions. But
Okay.
turning
Thank
it over to Corey.
All right, Corey, you've been very patient on deck there. Brandy, thank you so much. She's a hard act to follow, Corey. I have no doubt that you'll get at least as do as well as she did. So, but please tell us, uh, maybe tell us about yourself, and then also the SBA relief available to fire victims.
Yes, sir. And Mark, it's great to be on the show. And I love having Brandy as my tag team partner. I always brag about her that we make a good 1-2 punch. So she gets all the stuff done. By the time the 50 minutes is done, y'all are tired and you don't want to answer any more questions from me. So but my name is Corey Williams, Public Information Officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. My division covers 26 states west of the Mississippi, including Guam, American Samoa, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. So we're going to go through a quick presentation. Hopefully, I'll answer most of the questions through the presentation, then we'll go from there. But SBA offers low interest loans to businesses of all sizes, nonprofits, homeowners, and renters not covered by insurance or other recovery funds, including FEMA. Now, this incident period is from January 7th, 2025 and continuing. And just like FEMA, we have a physical damage deadline of March 10th, 2025, but the economic injury deadline, which we will discuss a little further, is not until October 8th of 2025. And the interest rates for homeowners and renters is as low as 2.563%. For businesses, interest rates are as low as 4%, and nonprofits are fixed at 3.625%. Again, no cost to apply, no prepayment penalty, and again, you're under no obligation to borrow if you're approved. Now, two key things I wanted to note about the SBA program is that interest does not begin to accrue until 12 months from the date of the first disaster loan disbursement, and SBA disaster loan repayment does not begin until 12 months from the date of the first disbursement as well. So the question people always ask is, well, who can apply for an SBA disaster loan? Renters, homeowners, private nonprofits, and businesses are eligible to apply if you are located in a declared disaster area, which for this declaration is Los Angeles County. Now, for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program for businesses and nonprofits, that also includes Kern, Orange, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties. Now, we encourage all who were impacted to apply. So renters can repair or replace personal property. They can repair or replace automobiles. And we also cover any insurance deductibles. And homeowners can use the funds to repair or replace real estate. They can repair or replace personal property. They can repair or replace automobiles. We cover insurance deductibles. We can also use the funds for debris removal. And relocation is on a case-by-case basis, as well as refinance. Now, for private nonprofits and businesses, business loans, you can use them to repair, replace real estate, repair or replace inventory, repair or replace machinery, repair or replace equipment, and all other physical losses, which would include debris removal and insurance deductibles. And for the economic injury disaster loan, you can use that for operating expenses such as payroll, monthly lease obligations, mortgage payments, rent, or any accounts payable. Now, when we rebuild, we want to rebuild stronger and protect our property from future disasters. And SBA can offer up to 20% of the total loss for mitigative measures for all perils, which is a new rule that allows not just for the wildfires, but every peril that you can think of, which would include wind tornado mitigation, such as bracing and upgrading wind-rated garage doors, or installing hurricane roof straps, or even upgrading to pressure-rated windows and installing safe rooms or storm shelters. We can cover flood mitigation, sealing your roof deck, elevating your structures, adding a sump pump, relocating outside of a floodplain, and then landscaping property to improve runoff and drainage. Now, the major thing is wildfire mitigation, which could include installing a Class A fire rated roof or remove roof and gutter debris that can be ignited by airborne embers. And then also, California is earthquake prone sometimes. So, earthquake mitigation can include installing window film to prevent shattered glass injuries, as well as anchoring rooftop mounted equipment. Now, the application process, again, the deadline to apply is March 10th, 2025. The deadline to apply for economic injury is October 8th, 2025. Just like Brandy alluded to, I strongly encourage you to visit a disaster recovery center because we have outstanding customer service representatives from SBA that work alongside FEMA that can answer any questions, do your application intake, and really take in any kind of supplemental documents you may have. However, if you are unable to visit a disaster recovery center, you can apply online by going to lending.sba.gov. Again, that's lending.sba.gov. And you can call our 800 number, which is 800-659-2955. Now, once you complete an application, just like FEMA, we will send a member of our loss verification team to do a property inspection to decide what your total physical damage may be. Whenever an SBA employee comes onto your property, please, please, please make sure that you have them show their ID to make sure that they are actually an SBA employee. And if someone is saying that they're going to charge for an inspection, then please report them to the 800-659-2955 because that is fraud. Now, once you actually go through the loss verification, a loan officer will then take over the case to work with the business, homeowner, renter, nonprofit to receive any additional information and review any insurance or other recoveries and recommend a loan amount based on that number. Now, our goal is to be able to disperse the first $50,000 of the loan within 7 to 10 days if you're a homeowner. And for business owners, it's up to $25,000 for their physical loss and $25,000 for the economic injury, which is the unsecured portion of the loan. Now, once you go through the unsecured threshold, then it may be supplemental documents that may be required to receive additional loan amounts, such as recording your mortgage with LA County, or also it could be doing a security agreement if you're pledging certain inventory, machinery, and equipment, and then also adding SBA as a loss payee on your insurance policy. Now let's go through the disaster loan limits. For business loans, again, for the bars are for business and private nonprofits to repair, replace real estate, inventory, and equipment, that maximum amount is $2 million. For economic injury, small businesses, again, and private nonprofits, working capital loans, that's $2 million. Now that $2 million is a cumulative amount. So you can get $1 million for your physical loss and you can get $1 million for your economic injury, but you can't get $4 million. It's a $2 million cap unless our processing center determines that you are considered a major source of employment. And if you want to be considered to be a major source of employment, please talk to the loan officer, let them know of the situation, and they will make that evaluation. Now, for home loans, Homeowners can borrow up to 500,000 to repair, replace their primary residence, and also for homeowners and renters, they can use 100,000, borrow up to 100,000 to repair or replace personal property. Now, we also offer mitigation for businesses, private nonprofits, and homeowners, and that's to mitigate or prevent future loss of the same type. And that's 20% of the verified physical damage or loss. And then homeowners are limited to $500,000 cap. Now, the SBA has a number of centers. We have a couple of business recovery centers and also a disaster loan outreach center that's in Pasadena. And then we also staff alongside FEMA in the disaster recovery center under the same operating hours. Now, our customer service representatives are available to answer all loan program questions, explain the application process, and assist with the completion of your application, and also assist with loan reconsideration or reacceptance. Now, always keep in mind that if you happen to receive a decline from SBA, just like FEMA, a no is not a final no. You have up to 6 months to apply for reconsideration, and you can apply for reconsideration multiple times during that 6-month period. Further, we have a team of our customer service representatives that are also reaching out to applicants that may be within 5 or 10 points of the credit score threshold, and working with them to help them go through and get the processing center to overcome the decision. Now, again, if you have any questions about the SBA disaster loan programs, you can go to lending.sba.gov, or you can just go to sba.gov/disaster, or you can visit our customer service center, which is at 1-800-659-2955. And again, you can visit any business recovery center or disaster recovery center in your area. So with that, I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Corey. Let's see, I had a question. You were talking about for homeowners, the eligibility to receive in loans up to 500,000 to repair or replace, and then also funding for mitigation costs up to 20% of the verified loss. And I think you also said there's a $500,000 cap. Is that in addition to the first $500,000 repair or replace cap?
Outstanding question. And yes, so this is to kind of alleviate the situation with the Palisades, because we know that some of those homes at 500,000 might not be able to be made whole. So one of the recommendations that I have is that they can borrow up to 500,000 for their real estate and up to 500,000 for mitigative measures. And then they also are eligible for up to 100,000 for their personal property replacement, which would include vehicles. So essentially, now we have up to $1 million that can be used for SBA funds, but 500,000 of that would be for mitigative purposes.
Okay. And some people may have received during COVID SBA loans under the EIDL Emergency Lending Program. If those persons are in default or they're behind, delinquent in their payments, are they eligible for this loan disaster relief relating to the fires?
Yes, they are, Mark. And that's another outstanding question. I actually receive that question every day. So, and to answer that question, for the COVID EIDL, the first thing I would tell someone to do is to go ahead and call the COVID EIDL Servicing Center, and they can request a 6-month hardship. That 6-month hardship will reduce their payments, I believe, up to 50% of the amount. So now they're going to see that they have to pay that 50% less. And then also keep in mind they have the 12-month deferment and 12-month zero interest accrual during this time. So now they'll have a reduced payment for their COVID loan, and you won't have any payment for the California wildfire loan.
Okay. Um, this is kind of a related question from the audience. What is the credit score threshold?
That's a great question. So we look at credit score and repayment ability. Now, we don't have a posted credit score, Mark, but we are not like a traditional lender. So I would say a baseline score that you may want to be looking for is about a 575. If you're in that range of 575 or above, then you're probably going to receive at least a call if we happen to decline someone. So if they're like 565 to that 585 range, and they happen to receive a decline, most likely they're going to receive a call from our customer service representatives who will work with them to get their file overcome to where we can get them to an approval.
Okay. And would you mind just going over, in summary, the two deadlines, application deadlines, and what the applications are and what they cover again, please?
Yes, so the physical deadline to apply is going to be March 10th, 2025. That's the same as FEMA's deadline. Now, the deadline to apply for economic injury disaster loan is October 8th, 2025. Now, here's where I really want to kind of stand on my pulpit, Mark. So many businesses, I've been doing this for 19 years. I love what I do. And so many business owners will wait until 4, 5, 6 months down the line to realize that they've had economic injury. Economic injury can come in so many facets. One, drops in sales. Two, having to lay off employees because the books are tight. Three, if you have a storefront that you cannot no longer service, having to pivot and potentially do online marketing, or even like if you have a food truck where now you may not be able to service as much of the Altadena area. Now you have to pivot to other areas, maybe like a Phoenix, Sacramento, or Santa Barbara. All of those are signs of economic injury. And so many times, Mark, I hear businesses, well, Corey, I've had a drop in sales for 3 months, or I had to lay off my employees because the books were tight. Don't wait until June. Don't wait until July. The reason why my team, and I have an excellent team of public information officers as well as customer service representatives that are here to service, don't wait until it's too late. And what happens is so many businesses or nonprofits, they will draw from their personal funds. And then by the time they get ready to apply for SBA, then essentially they're tapped out and their credit is probably impacted. So take advantage of the programs now, because the good thing is once you get into the system, businesses, nonprofits, homeowners, and renters can apply for increase in loan amounts for up to 2 years from the date of the loan authorization agreement. So let's say we have a business, let's say we have a law firm that actually had some small damage, and let's say there was 25,000 for physical loss, and then they went ahead and got 25,000 for their economic injury. But then let's say in June, well, things really haven't come back, Mark, but things are kind of tight. We got a few things going. So then they can go to their case manager and say, hey, you know, Kelly, you're my case manager. I kind of used this first 50,000. I really think I might need to get another 50,000. They can actually request that loan amount, increase in loan amount, and that way they can continue to meet their needs of their business through this recovery process.
Okay. And once they receive a certain loan amount, let's say for economic injury, and let's say it's on account of loss in revenue, then does the borrower have to report how the proceeds are used to address that specific economic loss, or is it just completely left to the discretion of the borrower at that point?
Another outstanding question, Mark. So, economic injury, or the way it will state on the loan authorization and agreement, economic injury funds for working capital. So it's how you, as the business owner, see fit, you as the nonprofit, to use how you see fit to keep your business operational. No, we do not require an audit of anything of the funds. We have to make, as long as you're using it for a business purpose. Now, I've been with the agency for a while, Mark. I've seen people buy Super Bowl tickets, cruises around the world, and different things like that. The one thing you don't want to do is, keep it within the purpose of what you're intended to. So if you're a homeowner, use it for homeowner, use it for repair replacement. If you're a renter, use it for repair replacement personal property. If you're a business, use it for your physical loss as well as economic injury. And if you're if you're a nonprofit, use it for your physical loss as well as economic injury, and you'll be fine. But trips around the world, Super Bowl tickets, upgrading your car to a Maybach, that's not the intended purpose of the SBA disaster loan program.
Okay, so it's a working capital loan, and the quantification of the economic injury, I take it, is what determines the amount of the loan that you'd be eligible for. But it's not the amount of working capital that's necessary to compensate you or bring you back to the original pre-disaster sales level. It's the amount of the diminution in sales is the amount of the working capital loan that you'd be eligible for.
Another great question. So we actually want to bring you back to those pre-disaster numbers. So that can happen in a number of ways. So let's say, like I say, we have a law firm that's doing mainly has a storefront now in Altadena. They're not able to get their business operational. They're having to pivot towards online marketing. They can use the funds as they see fit to whatever is necessary to get their business at the same level it was before these devastating wildfires started. So whatever way they need to pivot or do, and especially for nonprofits, Mark, what happens, a lot of people don't realize with nonprofits, especially in the month of January and February, there are a number of events that occur throughout the city. And for a nonprofit, when they are impacted, so if there is an event that, let's say, a nonprofit had in January, well, that was anticipated revenue for them in January 2025. So if that event gets moved to June of 2025, well, that's 5 months that money has been deferred. So that's why it's so important that as a nonprofit that they identify that economic injury very early in the process. As soon as an event is canceled as a nonprofit, that's the time to go ahead and you can identify that immediate economic injury. And further, as soon as there's any economic injury for a business, you can see it. If there's an accounts payable that you're not able to meet, or if there is a contract that's been canceled, that is economic injury. Don't wait until June, July, August to say, well, Corey, I've had these contracts, be, canceled for a long time. Like, no, this is the time now to take advantage of the program and that's why our messaging right now, Mark, is to be proactive in identifying that economic injury early in the process rather than when it's too late.
Okay, thank you, Corey. And you mentioned that it's the economic injury, the working capital portion that's unsecured. Is that
Yes,
correct?
it's up to 25,000 that's unsecured for the economic injury and up to 25,000 for the physical loss that's unsecured. Once we go above those two thresholds, it becomes a secured loan. So you can't borrow up to 50,000 and it's an unsecured loan. You can't cross collateralize. So it's 25,000 for the physical loss, 25,000 for the economic injury. That's what is the unsecured amounts. And then for homeowners, it's 50,000 for the physical loss.
50,000, that's unsecured.
That's unsecured, yes, sir.
Okay, and then if you go above 50,000 up to that 500,000 maximum, then that is secured by what, personal
That's secured.
guarantees?
Usually for a homeowner, the mortgage, we would be, and we are okay with subordinating our lien. So SBA, even if we are the primary lender in amount, we are okay with subordinating our mortgage. So that's not a problem there. But we do have to record a mortgage on the property if you are a homeowner or if there's any collateral that the actual case manager loan officer sees that's available that once you go over that $50,000 threshold for a homeowner and above the 25,000 each for a business and nonprofit.
Okay, and then might the SBA also ask for a personal guarantee on top of the mortgage?
For the businesses, yes. Homeowners, no. The person, basically the mortgage, the second on the mortgage, there's no, at least in my 19 years, I haven't seen us do a personal guarantee on a homeowner or a renter. But for business, yes, because certain machinery, inventory, equipment, we know that that kind of changes on a yearly or, 2 or 3 years, they may replace equipment or things like that. So in that case, yes, there may be a personal guarantee for a business or a nonprofit, but not for a homeowner or renter.
Okay. And is this under the EIDL program?
Yes. So this is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. And also keep in mind, all of our loans are directly funded by the US Treasury. That's why we have that 12-month zero interest accrual. That's why we have the 12-month deferment. And it's also why there's no closing costs, no prepayment penalties, and no application fee on our loans. Because again, these are loans, these are your federal taxpayer dollars at work.
Okay. It kind of brings me to a question that I actually would like to ask both of you, and I know this
Sure.
question's in people's minds, and it has to do, we've talked about all the requirements, and it's just tremendous that the resources and assistance that FEMA and SBA offer, but it requires a lot of monitoring, of course, and that requires, it sounds like, a whole army of people who can undertake this effort to get the relief out to people on a timely basis. Can you each tell us a little bit about what the staffing is like at the SBA? And, is this all handled by one particular group or division? How does all that work? Because I'm sure people are curious and wondering, how in the world are you guys going to manage all this work?
Well, so I guess I'll jump on that question first.
Okay.
With the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience, Mark, we're more than equipped to handle all disasters. We have a team of customer service representatives throughout the country, even responding to other disasters throughout the country. And we have plenty of staffing. We're not going to run out of money. The Treasury is good. These are, again, your federal taxpayer dollars at work. And so the one messaging that I really want to leave and have this resonate, we're in it for the long run. We understand that this process is not going to be an overnight process for any of you all as a homeowner, business owner, renter, nonprofit. I am prepared to be here for the long run. So that's really what the process is to get you back on that road to recovery as soon as possible and use anything in our power within the federal government to get you in that role. So I'll defer to Brandy for.
So I'm really excited that we have so many people supporting this mission. We actually have about 500 folks here in Pasadena who are supporting the work of not only answering the questions when you come to one of our facilities, going out into the community, like we're at Ralph's and Kroger's right now, answering questions, or going to town hall meetings and answering questions for you. But I'm excited about it because I'm the public affairs officer for this region. So I typically am the person who creates all of the communication materials here in California, Nevada, Arizona, Guam, Hawaii, etc. And so I have a great team of about 15 people who are helping us to put together the videos and the content that really explains this information to all of you. And we're working with PIOs like Corey and others at other federal agencies to make sure that we are really getting the message across right now. And so that message will translate into you actually registering, and then our call centers and steady state staff supporting you the rest of the way. So we're here for the long haul. As Corey mentioned, I actually work in this region, so you won't lose me. And we'll be here to continue to support.
I think you're on mute, Mark.
Sorry, I was just thanking you both for answering that question and thanking you both for all of your hard work, and I'm sure everybody here appreciates it. We have only 2 more questions, so you've done a very thorough job in explaining the relief available. We'll go through these last 2 questions so that we can say we've hit almost all of the questions. I think this question is asking if a CPA firm is operating, but the sole CPA is displaced dealing with smoke damage, et cetera, so therefore not able to work as many hours. Is there relief available for the lost income by not being able to bill as many hours?
Another great question, Mark. This is the exact example of economic injury when we have a primary employee that's been impacted and they're not able to service the company like they're used to. That impacts the bottom line. So it impacts the sales and their production. So again, that is economic injury in a nutshell. So that's why we want to make sure we're proactive from day one, because if this happened 2, 3, 4 months down the line, and we haven't even gotten to the higher part of tax season as we get closer to April, it may be more and more of an economic impact because of that key employee not being able to service that company. So that is exactly why I'm such a proponent of economic injury and not waiting until June, July, or August to actually start that application process, even though the deadline is October 8th.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Corey. All right. This is a multi-part question, so let me take it one at a time. We were living in our house from December 2020. Let's see, I think this is part of the same. Until August 2024, we rented out our house after that. We were planning to return to our house in 2 years. Should we apply for a homeowner loan or business loan?
So they're going to have to apply for a business loan in that situation, Mark, because at the time, just like Brandy alluded to, there wasn't considered their primary residence. Now, here's the concern. If they are actually doing it as a business and they've rented it out, that rental income has to be reflected on their tax return. I know that sometimes people try to get certain rents under the table. So I just want to make sure that I kind of level set the expectation that they have to report that as taxable income in order for it to be eligible for a business loan. And they could be eligible not only for the physical loss, if there was physical damage to the property, but they also could be eligible for the economic injury because of the lost rents. But that income would have had to be reported on their 2024 tax return whenever it's due in April, which will be extended by the IRS since they were impacted by a major disaster.
Okay. And if they commented that they've been getting a lot of mixed conflicting messages regarding their eligibility from FEMA and SBA, but you guys have been very clear. If we do apply for business loan, shouldn't we be able to get loan money instantly so that we can buy another property and rent it out? At this point, we are paying rent and mortgage both with no rental income, which we were relying on to pay current income.
So yes, we try to make sure we get that first 50,000 out. That first 25,000, remember, it's 2 pockets of money. 25,000 for the economic injury, 25,000 for the physical loss. So we try to get that out as soon as possible. Economic injury, once they actually do the necessary requirements, whether it's actually taking collateral on machinery, inventory, equipment, or if they have a property or piece of real estate, commercial property that we can use as collateral. Once we get that secured, it is a little easier to release the economic injury disaster loan funds because all requirements have been met. But keep in mind that for real estate repair and recovery, we know that this is going to be a long process. So to be able to give someone, let's say, 500,000 right now for their real estate, it's essentially going to sit because we have to get through the debris removal process, which from conservative efforts is up to a year. So we have to make sure that we're cognizant of, knowing that whenever it's time to rebuild, that they'll have those funds. But rest assured, if they are a homeowner and they need the funds later, they're still going to be there for them. But they'll at least get that initial pocket of money, that 50,000 unsecured.
Okay. Thanks for that. Thanks for that reassurance. I'm sure we've all been concerned. So I think we've actually answered all of our audience's questions. Let me
I
remind
think there
you.
was one refresher, Mark, about the interest rates. So I did
Oh,
want to go over that one
oh
more time.
yes, please do. Thank you, Corey.
So interest rates for homeowners and renters is as low as 2.563%. Business owners as low as 4%, nonprofits fixed at 3.625%. Again, 12-month deferment, 12-month zero interest accrual.
Okay, and I think there's one more. What is the maximum amount of loan a nonprofit organization can borrow?
$2 million. They can, that's cumulative, that's the total of any economic injury as well as physical loss, unless they are considered a major source of employment for the area. So the Small Business Act actually defines a major source of employment. In LA County, it's a lot harder, I will be honest with you, to justify that. Most of the time when we're dealing with a major source of employment is if we're in like a small town in Arkansas and they have one factory that basically employs the entire city. That's a major source of employment, but it's harder to really truly identify a major source of employment in LA that would probably qualify. But again, we don't make that eligibility determination in the field. So if someone wants to be considered for a major source of employment, they should ask their case manager.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're very fortunate. Both Corey and Brandy have agreed to come back in 2 weeks because in their experience, and we figured that people would have additional questions after today's session, and some people may not have been able to make it. So they are going to return. We're going to have another 90-minute session, same time, same place, but in 2 weeks on Friday, February 21st. And if you have questions, please submit them. You can submit them in advance if you'd like. And Tarina, don't hate me for this, but I'm going to ask if you would put your email address in the chat. And if you have any questions or people that you know or clients have any questions that you'd like to ask Corey and Brandy, please submit them. You're welcome to ask them as well, like you did today live, but we'll be sure we get to them. We get to them if you submit them in advance. And with that, we've just about run out of time. Once again, Brandy, Corey, thank you so much for all your efforts. It's been really trying for a lot of folks, both those indirectly as obviously, as well as those directly who lost all their earthly possessions. And so it's really nice that we have some federal relief available to help them out.
We're more than happy to help. And again, my heart goes out to those who were impacted by these devastating fires. So whatever myself and Brandy can do, we're here. We're here, and we're here for the long run.
Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Great job, Corey.
Bye-bye.
I love being your Robin.
Bye.
Have a great
Bye,
day.
guys.